Hello. We already have one person here. Awesome. Hi, Deanna.
Hello.
We will wait for a couple more people to join us.
Sounds good.
Hey, Janice. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Hey, Nisi. Excellent. I'm not going to wait too much longer to get started because I have a lot of information for you, and I actually have things for you to do as soon as you go back to work, as I promised. So this is going to go pretty fast. Just want to make sure we have enough people. So we have Stephen, Lorraine, Janice, Bianca. Awesome. Hey, Charlene. Okay, just one more minute and we will get started. Hey, Tiffany, thanks for coming. All right, we have enough to get started. I have a lot to share with you today, so thank you so much for joining me. And pay attention, we will go fast. I will definitely take your questions as I promised. This is something I always do in all my events, whether it's a webinar or a live event, person-to-person event that I do. I always make sure that there's plenty of time for folks to come in and answer and ask any questions that they may have. And if there's a question where you feel you have some input that you would like to raise your hand, certainly let me know, and then I can also unmute you at that time to be able to join. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. As you can see, because I'm keeping this to only 30 minutes, I don't like very long presentations, so I keep things to a minimum. All right, are you able to see my screen okay? Or does it need to be larger for you? Everyone okay? All right, let me know in the chat if it's okay for you or if you have any issues. Okay, so far so good. So what we want to talk about today is delegating without losing control. And this is for business owners, managers, executives, because that is often a problem that people face, because when you're a leader, you have more and more responsibilities coming your way, and you don't want to end up in the dilemma of having to micromanage people. Perhaps you've had a bad experience before, and that's why you tend to micromanage. Perhaps this is a new team that you have or new people that you've hired, and you don't want to be stuck micromanaging them. And again, it might have been a past experience. In some cases, people are doing it themselves. There's a lot of things you don't necessarily need to do yourself, because as a leader, you want to be able to delegate. You're still in charge. Just allowing somebody to take over a particular role or a particular task does not make you any less important. So this is something that leaders I've worked with in the past have had a big problem with, because they feel that they're in charge. And as soon as I recommend do X, they automatically want to say, okay, I'll do it. No, when I say do X, I don't mean you personally have to do it. You make sure you delegate that decision to somebody else, and then they respond to you. So do it yourself does not necessarily mean you personally. And a lot of times you do find yourself doing things yourself, and I will tell you how you can get out of that situation. The third problem that you may have is what I call the IAGN syndrome. You're singing to yourself all day, I ain't got nobody, right? We have some people who have a ton of people who are reporting to them, and we have folks who have a very small or very limited team. So it's difficult for them to find a resource. So I will tell you exactly how to approach that in your particular situation and how you can avoid that the I ain't got nobody syndrome. So with more responsibilities, the first thing I want to tell you is you may have made your mark in some particular area. Your fingerprints are on something, and it is your pride. You made your name, you made your money in that particular arena, and yet you are reaching for a new level of opportunity, and you feel you need to have a fallback position in case it doesn't work out. Do not give yourself that out by holding on to something which is a box that you've outgrown. Please don't do that. The other reason why you don't want to do that is because you have limited bandwidth. Everybody has 24 hours a day. Yes, some people may have nannies. Yes, some people may have assistants and you don't have an assistant, or they may have a large staff and you don't have a large staff. At the end of the day, everybody has 24 hours. You have to decide for yourself, what do you require out of your work life? What do you require out of your personal life? When you decide how you want to live your life, how you want to conduct your business, that will set the stage for what you are willing to accept into your schedule and what you are going to have to overthrow. Sometimes we feel an obligation to hold on to a promise that we made because we said, well, they're depending on me. Well, in light of your current situation, is it the right thing for those people to continue depending on you? If that's not the case, you need to replace yourself. You can say, I can no longer, attend to this obligation for you. And as a result, what I will do is give you someone to replace me. I need some water. Oftentimes we are in search of a cost-neutral solution because you set your budget either at the beginning of the fiscal year, or you're limited, you're working out of a fixed income and you don't have that much room in your budget to hire another person or to do something else. So that's what you think you don't have. However, where that limits you is you may not have the right person in place to do that particular work. So if you don't do that, if you don't get another person to help you, you may waste your time and your money trying to do something yourself and taking a lot longer time to do it then you could hire somebody for a few hours, that you could hire somebody for a month, that you could hire somebody for 3 months, for 6 months to take care of that particular issue, and then they step out. So that limits your cost. My company was able to make a difference for a client where they had been struggling with something for a few months, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in 90 minutes on the first day, we solved that particular problem. Of course, there's other things that we were able to do for them, but that's just goes to show you that if you have an expert working with you, how much further you can get. If you don't have the budget for an expert, look for somebody in your organization, because there's always somebody who I call the hungry man in the organization, somebody who's a go-getter, somebody, even though he doesn't have all the skills you would like them to have, but they have sufficient skills to grow from where they are into that position. So that's what we're going to talk about also, making sure that your solution is cost neutral and how that can benefit you in the future. As far as the cost of doing nothing, they could be plenty. Have you ever had somebody just snap at you seemingly for no reason? Type in the chat if that has ever happened to you. Okay, so what happens is when you are overburdened with too much work, you tend to snap at people. And that can send the wrong message, because it shows that you are frustrated, that you're not able to deal with the amount of frustration, and therefore you're taking it out on somebody else. That is not a good look. Another cost of doing nothing is that the more you keep taking on, because you're not respecting your time and therefore you're allowing other people to not respect your time also, is that you begin to resent the status quo. And because you're resenting it, because you're ignoring that resentment that's inside of you instead of doing something about it, it's going to start to spill over you might become the person that, that snaps at someone for no reason. And this is no way that a leader should act. Yes, you are a human being also, but people do have additional expectations of a leader. They do expect you to step up. They do expect more of you. They do expect better behavior from you. And a lot of times when you're in a leadership position, you may think that what you say and what you do, somebody should not feel disgruntled by the way you say something, by the way you acted. But oftentimes people feel that you are doing it because you are in a higher position than they are. So it is important to make sure that you're not giving the wrong signals by doing that. So next, I want to talk about, the fact that I've been in those situations myself. I can talk about it, ad-lib about it all day long because I've been in the situation. I grew my corporate career where I was a hands-on engineer to the point where I became a VP, and I had client-facing roles for many, many of those years, audit responsibilities and so on. So I had to make sure that I built a team around me that I could depend on. And since 2003, when I started DevOps Advisors, I've had the benefit of not only helping corporate clients, but also business owners in how they can do things a little bit better for themselves. And as you can see with my civic engagement, community engagements, there are some people here on the webinar. I've never met you. I've never heard of you before. I have no idea how you found me. And some people here, some people on the webinar I happen to know. And people who know me know I'm very involved in things related to the community as well as civic things. So that means I am busy. But does that mean I drive myself crazy? No, I don't, because I am choosy about what I spend my time on, and I require a certain lifestyle for myself. I do not allow myself to get in situations where things are untenable for me. And if I find that something is becoming untenable, it's a sign. It's not a sign for me to work harder. If you start working harder and harder and harder, you are sending the wrong message. Somebody who is brand new to a job, somebody who's brand new in their career, that person, it's okay for that person to come in early, to work through lunch, and to work late. If you're a leader, you can't do that. You can do that on occasion for a project to close a business deal, right? You can do that as a leader, but only for a limited time. But if your entire lifestyle is coming in early, working through lunch, and working late, it shows you are incompetent and you cannot handle your job. And that is certainly not the image you want to project, that chaotic image, that hair on fire. I like to tell people I'm not into walking around with my hair on fire. I have led extremely huge teams, hundreds of people across the world to deliver a project, and yet I was not walking around with my hair on fire. I made sure I set the pace that I wanted to set for my team. I did not overwork my people because I gave the appropriate job to the appropriate person. All right, so that's all I wanted to say about myself. Now, the most important thing about delegation is choosing the right person, not what you delegate, the right person, because that will make or break you. The right person is important because you don't want somebody who accepts the responsibility because they're next in line. The reason for that is the person may feel overconfident. The person may feel they don't need to put that much work into it. The person may not have as much zeal about it as you do, and therefore they may not represent you well, especially if you have to trust the person to represent you in a different situation. So you may want to look outside of the direct pipeline of people that you would normally go to back you up on a project. You want to go to somebody who's actually going to do something. And it's also a way for you to grow somebody that normally would not have the spotlight on them. Think right now in your organization, there is that hungry man that I talked about before. There is somebody who's willing to work hard. There is somebody who's waiting to prove themselves, and they're waiting for the opportunity, right? So they're trying to read the tea leaves to figure out, when do I get an opportunity? When you present that opportunity to someone and they have that visibility on them, the spotlight is on them, then they know it's an opportunity to shine. They know they have to step up. And as a result, they will give you better work than the person who was just waiting to be anointed, the person who was waiting to be elevated, the person who was the natural choice, so to speak, to get that. And that's, you know, I can tell you openly that in order for me to climb the ranks in corporate America, that's one of the things that distinguished me. And I'm not afraid to tell anybody that, because I gained a reputation of being the person that other people came to when the usual suspects did not work. They used to come to me and they said, Karine, we know you probably don't know anything about this, but could you figure out how this works? And I'd be honest. Yeah, I think I can figure out, or it will take me a little time to figure it out. But I was able to prove myself. And I had the leadership that was not threatened by somebody else's ambition. So the second part about challenge parameters. And by the way, if you have any comments, do let me know in the chat so I can, if this is resonating with you, do let me know in the chat so I can know if this is the way that you are, if this is working for you, if you're getting some insights from that. In terms of challenge parameters, I see my typo now. In terms of challenge parameters, you want to SDB, stretch, don't break. Sometimes you can run your people too hard because you are giving them too much work. You have to understand what is the capacity of the person to take on the work that you want to delegate. You don't want to give it to an incompetent person. You don't want to give it to somebody who's not motivated. But provided that you have that person that is motivated to help you, to assist you, you want to stretch the person, but not break them. The stretch is something which is going to take them, and I usually recommend 2 to 4 hours. It's going to take them at least 2 hours to learn something, but as long as 4 hours to learn something. In other words, it's not to say that a total of 4 hours is all it takes, but for them to learn the first step of helping you, it should take them at least 2 hours. Because if it takes at least 2 hours of focus to get that done, they will feel a sense of quick accomplishment and a quick win, and they'll be able to go on to the next step. And if it's something which takes them 4 hours, an entire half day, you can actually learn a lot and produce a lot in a 4-hour time slot if you deep dive and make sure that you get rid of all distractions and you focus that 4 hours on that initial step of learning how to do something. So that's what I mean by stretching, but not breaking someone. Because if you break them, they're gonna feel like a failure. You're gonna have, egg on your face, and that brings you back to the micromanaging, being on the treadmill of micromanaging or taking something back or rescuing people. You do not want to rescue people. Do not assign a task to people who are not reliable, who do not have a track record of getting things done, who do not have a track record of using their own mind to figure things out for themselves. Yes, they may need help, and they should come to you for feedback. They should come to you for tweaking, for telling them, well, this is not quite what I had in mind, but here's what I want you to do instead. And you let them go back and fix it. You do not reinsert yourself into the situation to fix it for them. So now I want to talk to you about my ESA formula. And that stands for eliminate, streamline, and automate. Write that down, please. Find a pen and paper and write that down. ESA formula. And leave a space, write each one on a separate line, and leave a little bit of space in between each one, because that's your homework. This is what I'm going to make you do at the end of this webinar. ESA stands for eliminate, streamline, automate. Depending on where you are on the food chain, as a business owner or as a corporate leader, you probably have no less than 10 meetings on your calendar. I would like everybody to put in the chat how many meetings you have right now. Write down how many meetings you have per week. Now, are you absolutely required to be in every single meeting? one way to quickly eliminate things from your life or to make your life easier, is to figure out, what does your day look like? What does your week, your month look like? What are you doing that's taking up your time? Is your time required? Is your personal time required? Sometimes you can eliminate something completely from your schedule and it does not change anything. It does not affect anything. So that's low-hanging fruit. Almost everybody in their life, you have some low-hanging fruit that you need to deal with. Get rid of it. Now, getting rid of it doesn't necessarily mean that some things have to be done. So for the things that have to be done, it may not have to be done by you. So you need to figure out, write down one thing you intend to eliminate from your schedule between now and next Friday, the end of next week. Write down what you're going to eliminate from your schedule. Elimination is either total elimination or passing that off to a delegate. Second thing is streamline. I highly, highly recommend what I call a deep dive day. A deep dive day, write that down. And it's known by other names, deep work, cave day, etc. I call it a deep dive day, where if you're going to be reaching out to customers, that is your day to reach out to customers. If you're going to be working on product development, that's your day to work on product development. You spend your entire day, all day, doing nothing except doing product development, or doing nothing except marketing, reaching out to customers, and so forth. You are able to accomplish so much when you know that you do not accept any distractions, and instead what you decide to do is focus on that particular task and knocking it out, because once you're done with it, you're done with it. So I want you to write down, what is one process that keeps popping up throughout your week? It eats up time, it fritters your time away. Write down what you're going to streamline in your schedule. You're going to box those things, or box that one activity into one day or into a specific set of hours. Write that down, please. Lastly, part of the ESA formula is automate. Now, most of the people I deal with are technical leaders or people with direct access to tech people. Or if you're a business owner, even if you're not a tech person yourself, you can hire a tech person to help you with what you're trying to accomplish. But when I say automate, I don't mean that you personally have to do the automation. There's a lot of technical tools, and I can send you a list of tools that can help you after the webinar. Tools that can help you to manage what you're doing, to automate what you're doing. Zapier, for example, is a tool that can help you connect various other tools. And doing that, if you're working with a distributed team, you can use tools like Teamwork, Trello, Slack, etc., to make sure you're able to keep in touch with your team. So the automation does not have to be done by you, but imagine, what are you currently doing? Are there communications you could be handling better by using a tool? Are there other tasks that you're doing that, even if it goes beyond those tools and you need to actually get someone to automate something for you, do it. So this is something which is going to save you a lot of time. So next, we want to talk about what to delegate. Again, make sure that, I mentioned it before, make sure it is something visible that you give away.
So cold.
I need to mute a few people here. Sorry about that. There was some background noise with some folks, so I had to mute them. So in terms of brownie points, you want to make sure that there are some brownie points involved, both for yourself, bragging rights, as well as for the person that you're asking to help you. A lot of people don't want to do just grunt work that is not going to result in some benefit for them. So make sure you incentivize the person in some way to be able to get a little bit of glory out of the work that you're doing, because especially if this is not somebody who is in your direct team and you're asking a favor. And by the way, people are willing to help you. You may think you're in it all by yourself. That is not true. There are people who will come in and assist you, and they simply are not going to make it extremely obvious, because they want you to also read between the lines. They also want you to recognize their value and for you to approach them. And there's nothing wrong with approaching someone for help. Instead of waiting for somebody to come help you, you can ask for help. It does not diminish you in any way. Again, you want to stretch and not break someone, so don't give away something that has to do with the company's P&L. Don't do that. But maybe you're creating a new product, or you're creating a new service. Something like that, yes, you can certainly delegate. And make sure that you can do a clean break. Like I said, do not come back and rescue anything. That is a waste of your time. If you ever have to come back and rescue, if you cannot make a clean break, you cannot fully embrace everything that's coming to you. And sometimes it's not until you take the first 1, 2, or 3 steps into a new role, into a new opportunity, that you realize how much more it will demand of you. And therefore, you holding on to something old does not work. So make that clean break and stay out of it. So finally, what I would invite you to do, if you found value in this webinar, reach out to me. You can go to my bit.ly link, chat with Kareem, and my assistant will put that up on the screen for everybody to see. You can, I'll try to help you and give you some pointers for your particular situation on how you can get some results without overwhelming yourself. Particularly for women leaders. I know there are plenty of guys on this webinar too, but let me take a minute to talk to the women. As a woman leader, whether you're a business owner or a female leader in corporate America, a guy can lose his ish all day, every day. Every meeting, a guy can go off. A woman goes off one time. You raise your voice one time, all of a sudden you're the B word, right? So you want to make sure that you don't give people an opportunity to, call your character into question. So you can be a person in charge, but you don't have to walk around with your hair on fire. That's my personality. There are some people, they're on fire all the time, and people know that, and that's okay. Personally, I just don't like overwhelm. Personally, I don't like to be a firefighter. I like to know, I'm an excellent firefighter. That's why people hire me. Their butt gets in trouble and they hire me. However, I prefer to give them a life where they're not constantly firefighting, and that's where I can help you. So if there's any burning problem you have in your career, in your business, that you would like a little bit of insight on, there's a no obligation opportunity to book some time with me over the next week, and I will help you. There's also a small book that I wrote, Waking Up from Your Parents' American Dream. The ebook is free on both my websites, and I will have future lunch and learns where you guys can ask more questions. If you're interested in the half-day executive summit, let me know. Reply to any of the emails that you received. Let me know. We will talk about executive compensation and positioning your company for greater revenue growth. We'll talk about working in toxic environments. We'll talk about when is the right time to show your brains versus when is the right time to show your confidence. And at this time, we don't have a lot of time, so I would love to take any questions that you have. I'll stop sharing. And now I will take any questions you have. If you raise your hand, I will unmute you so that you can. Oh, somebody asked what P&L is. That is profit and loss. Somebody asked, do I have any suggestions for motivating and delegating in a volunteer setting? Yes, as a matter of fact, as I was building my career and then building my business, this year actually makes 20 years that I have been a member of a volunteer organization. So yes, I do understand that sometimes when people are not getting paid money, how else do you motivate them? The best way to motivate them is to let them own something. It doesn't really matter whether it's corporate or a nonprofit or a business setting. Let them own it. Tell them, here's your budget, run it. Tell them, here's what I expect. If they come back to you and it's not quite what you expected, tell them that it's okay to tell them what your expectations are and let them go. What do I recommend for getting started with Zapier for automation? Zapier is spelled Z-A-P-I-E-R. You can go and get a free trial of it. And basically, for example, if you get certain emails that you have to take action on, you can use Zapier. You can integrate Zapier to make sure that once you get certain emails, it automatically triggers another action. The way it works for business, it actually works with a lot of big technical tools where if you have a, let's say you use one of my products, Visual Studio Team Services, which is for software development teams. As soon as something happens in Visual Studio and you want to trigger, excuse me, you want to trigger an alert, you want to trigger something else to happen, you can use Zapier to create that automation. So a lot of tools that people are already using, you don't necessarily need another tool. You just need to use something that connects them, that glues them together, and that will help you. Let me see what the other questions are. Okay. Yeah, I saw that some people have 1, some people have 4 meetings, some people have 5. Yeah, definitely that is something which can do that. So how do these ideas shift in an all-volunteer civic organization populated by busy people like yourself? Yes, I am an advisor to multiple civic organizations because of my background, you know, being part of a volunteer organization myself. So I can usually go in and tell them, here's what you need to do. A lot of times, guys, the problem is not that here's what you need to do or who do you motivate. A lot of times the problem I find is that people are unwilling to give up control because they're the head of the organization. So they have to send the email and they have to host the event and they have to MC the event and they have to, you know, have all the speaking opportunities and all the speaking opportunities for the organization. Everything revolves around them. As a leader, you do not want to be the bottleneck for your organization. I see we are 2 minutes over, and I promise to wrap this up before the end of the day, before, you know, within 30 minutes. So I want to make sure I get that. Okay, somebody said that, you know, the webinar was great for her. And someone else said that she found that in the past it was something that seemed, automating some marketing actions, it seemed overwhelming. Yes, there is, so that's why I said, when you want to learn something, give yourself a full 2 hours, a minimum of 2 hours, a maximum of 4 hours to work with it. What will happen sometimes is you may need to get some help, but if you just play with it, do not, have fun with it, guys. Technology is fun, and that's why I advocate for that. It is there to help you. And if you don't, there are communities built around a lot of software so that if you are stuck in a particular thing, you can go to that community, a Facebook group, for example, and you will find the help you need. Or you can call the vendor that created that product. I happen to use Zapier a little bit. So if you reach out to me, I'll help you out. But there is a community around it already. So just describe the problem that you're having, and then somebody may be able to help you. So I hope this was helpful for you. If there's any more questions, let me know. So this will be a 35-minute webinar, not the 30 minutes I promised, but I want to keep to that. I don't see any other questions. And again, hi, Roberto, thanks for joining. Shay, thank you for joining. If there's anyone else who has any comment, raise your hand and I will let you speak. Otherwise, I will be ending the webinar now and sending you guys the replay if you would like. So thank you so much for participating. And I look forward to seeing you the next time we have a webinar. And if there's any particular ideas that you want to deep dive in for future webinars, please let me know. Thank you so much.